So there is 31% of this year left. 2/3 of the year is gone. It's just, sometimes you just get into that moment, like, where did it all go? And right at this point, it's a paradoxical moment, because with those dreams and those goals, all the things that we wanted to accomplish and we set out to do at the beginning of the year, right at this point, at the end of the summer, we're trying to G ourselves up. We're trying to get ourselves going. We're like, okay, this is the moment. And sometimes, just as we know we should be doing that, it's exactly the point where somehow this sense of melancholy sets in. It's like, well, where is the energy? I was dreaming of these things when I was having this moment of relaxation, and suddenly you get back into it. It's like, well, I'm not feeling that. And when you get into that moment, it's very easy for there to be a sense of tension, sense of anxiety, a sense of like, am I ever going to accomplish those things? Why can't I get after those things and get energized and get myself going? And what we forget is that we are right at this moment of the changing of the seasons, and there is this sense of melancholy that settles in just at the end of summer as we hit the threshold of autumn, this moment of transformation. We've been there in the summer, and we've been there as the colours have come out and the bloom, and the world has been beginning to fulfill itself, and despite the darker things going on, we have that sense we're in the heart of life, and that things are as they want to be, or they should be. And it brings us back into that moment of presentness. And sometimes that's difficult when we try to get back to our goals, because our goals are always about what we're trying to build with our life. They require the energy, that sense of future, of momentum, of forwardness, of moving towards something, of the blood getting up, and that sense that we can change our lives from where we are at the moment, which can sometimes feel stuck, towards something other, that sense of potential, whatever it is that we could damn well be. And yet we've been in this moment where, which is really the heart of life, where you're within life, within the moment. And as autumn changes, you feel this sense of longing. It's like, how am I going to get myself going once again? And this sense of worry and this sense of anxiety, I think it's a very interesting point when there's only a third left of the year, because when your energy isn't suddenly there right on day one, that's when all the doubts creep in. That's when the sense of like, oh, am I enough? And, oh, did I work hard enough at the end of the year? And you can feel this detachment or this dislocation between where you're trying to go and what you aspire to. The height of the dream as it was up in the sky, and it's like, wow, will I ever concretize it? Could I ever bring it down? Am I that person that can do it? And so today I'm just want to talk about this very particular moment in the year as we transition between these two things. This idea that there's 31% of the year left, but much more importantly about, what are the limitations that are holding you back? How do you transition from one thing and into the next? How do you recreate this habit chain and get stuff going? So the first thing is that at this point in the year, I think you have to allow yourself to be where you are. You don't have to do it all at once on day one again. This is a re-beginning. There are new points of resurrection, of renewal, of transformation, of change through the year. These are not sort of isolated things. You don't only get the chance on New Year's Day. This absolutely ridiculous idea of goals on New Year's Day, of resolutions on New Year's Day. Don't get me wrong, I love New Year's Day, but every day is an opportunity to do this. I've been putting into my workflow every single day, putting 15 minutes at the start of the day, which is specifically about the goals of yesterday, at the start of the year, just a little review point. So at this point, you're feeling a bit sort of dislocated or up in the air, and you're not sure how you're going to get yourself going, or perhaps you're even kind of in a moment of anxiety, like, what were those damn goals? I don't know what they were. don't panic. It's entirely okay that you take a moment. And what I would recommend is that rather than tomorrow trying to just get everything going all at once, instead you just take this moment to review, to be where you are. What were those goals? What are those goals? And just take a moment, look at them, because you have to visualize once again. You have to come back into yourself and tap into that deeper knowledge in your spirit that you know that you can do it, because you can do it, you will do it, and it's time to start saying, right, gonna get after this again. But it's okay when there's that resistance, because the thing is, when you're in this moment in these wonderful summer months, you're not aspiring to the future. Your goals are all about that which you might be. And when you're in the present, which is the heart of life, you're not worrying about that. And that's a blessed moment. And it's something to celebrate. And it's okay if you can't just flick a switch. Because nowadays, with all this grind culture and everything being so future orientated, there's this total forgetfulness that you get to be in your life. You get to feel the colours of the day, to sit in that cafe and to look out, to notice the azure sky, or the way that the sun streaks are bursting through and creating dapple colours through the trees and the leaves, or the way that a starling can sweep down and just lift your heart and make you forget everything except that life is a miraculous and wonderful thing. So don't be so quick to just say, I've got to get after it, and I've got to be this, and I've got to do that. Because I think the deeper that you can keep some of that feeling with you of being present and being available to your life, that's the spirit that you need to bring in those goals. That capacity to not always be driving forward, to be present within them. So that's one thing. Now, I want to talk about goals versus sub-goals, because this is the second point. We have so many goals, so many different things that we're chasing after here, there, and everywhere. On this channel, I'm talking very often about this as one of my pain points in life as I do my film, my photography work. And I got the podcast, and I got the newsletter, and I got the album that I'm trying to make. And then, of course, you've got friends and family and trying to grow as a person, keep yourself fit. You know, there's all these different things. Some of you might have kids. And so we've got these goals and we've got these sub-goals. But when it comes to our professional life, I think it's very helpful. In fact, I know it's very helpful to be aware of what the sub-goals are and what the principal goal is. So for me this year, I've been zeroing in on this album. And I said to myself, right, this year I'm not going to release anything. I'm just going to be writing and I'm going to be recording. And it's felt like such a gift to give myself the gift of time, to try and not be in a rush, because we think that a year is the longest amount of time. But if you really give yourself 1 year and you just take the pressure off and choose to be within that year, and every single day think, how can I move towards that one thing? It is absolutely unbelievable what you can do. So I look at myself, just all year I've been trying to keep this principal goal of the album, none of it written. I got to the beginning of the year, no songs whatsoever. This year I'm going to get this album written, and I've had to sacrifice. You guys were with me during some of the winter months where I was coming in here. Sometimes I was on my own, this amazing German factory. It was absolutely freezing. It would be zero in here. I'd literally have the ice kind of coming up through my toes and into my knees and into my brain. But step by step, so I've now got 9 songs recorded. Just did one a few months ago with Gordon Raphael, the wonderful producer of The Strokes and a great avant-garde artist. I've just been having some incredible experiences. But the point is, the album is moving forward because I've kept this principal goal in mind. Now this doesn't mean that I'm not trying to live a holistic life and to go after everything step by step, but it's like, for me, it's like, okay, what is the one thing this year? And it's so helpful when you have this one thing that you're zeroing in. So as it comes into the next part of the year, yes, there'll be a multiplicity, a plurality of different things asking you to go after those things. But as you get yourself going, think about what that one thing is. That's the most important thing. And how can you bring that principle of mind? And my recommendation would be just every day, even if you can't get to that thing as much as you'd like to be, what's that one thing that you can do every single day? Because most of us in the creative arts, we are trying to go after these dreams, these aspirations, and we don't have the time, and we're working for a living and we're trying to squeeze in, but we damn well know we got something in there. There's something in the fire. There's something that quickens the pulse. There's an electricity in the mind where we know there's something potential and available in us. And are we going to go towards it? But how do you go towards it? You have to focus on that one thing. Can you zero in? Can you bring that principle of mind? So for me, it's like I just said to myself, this comes to the third point. If that one thing be the thing that I want to get after, then what am I willing to sacrifice? So at times this year, when I've been very busy with my work, that's meant that I've had to get up super early in order to, let's say, get that hour of practice in, or that bit of writing time, or to try and prepare for the studio. How have I had to dig in? Or when I've had the opportunity to just really go after it for a week, it's like I've been right, I'm going to go into monk mode. And when I've gone into monk mode, it's been about the nature of sacrifice. What am I willing to say no to in order to say yes to? Because that's the nature of sacrifice. You have to sometimes let some things go in order for that principality, that one thing that you're going after to emerge, to take hold. Because you need to give it enough time that you can be within the process. Because if you don't stay within the process, then you always feel distant. And so at this point, as the changing of the seasons is happening, you very well might feel out of the process. And that's okay, because despite what all the YouTube videos say, most of us, we struggle to get to it every day. And most of us, part of the thing that we have to do is to let things go so that we can energize ourselves and get ourselves going and then recommit. And yes, it's hard to get back into the habit. It's hard to start building the chain back together, the daisy chain, the habit chain that really starts moving us towards our goal. But again, you need to take that moment, that sort of self-forgiveness, but not even self-forgiveness, the gratitude, the gladness that you took a moment away from it. Because if you're always zeroed in, you don't see the things around the side. You know, there's a time to have the blinkers on and to be just zeroed in. But sometimes you need to just take in new influences to feel, because in my experience, when I'm just going after a goal, the danger for me is that I'm so locked in, I'm so committed. You're being driven forward by an ambition, by a hunger, a fury, this sense of wandering, pursuing. And then it cuts off something emotionally in you, some capacity to breathe in the world and to be within that experience of letting it in, of letting it change you, or looking into the corners of your spirit. Perhaps some questions come up, perhaps some doubts, some things that you hadn't taken care of and that you hadn't looked at, or some fears or some anxieties. And the thing is that all this fixity on goal orientation, it so often doesn't lead anything around the sides in life. So it's so important as we try to get back into the saddle at this point of the year that we just actually give ourselves gratitude for the new perspectives that we can bring back to that. And even though we might feel anxious about trying to get back into the chain, we might feel like, oh my God, we're starting the process. We might be wondering what we did or didn't do for the last part of the year. But now is the time. You bring in new perspective. You bring in new energy. You bring in the way that you've brought in literally the energy of the sun into the deepest part of your being and your bones and your brain and your body. And then you start putting that into what you're doing with your life. So what at this point you're probably feeling a sense of block, and despite the fact that everyone says you just got to go and smash into it, take a moment, review that block, because so often when we just kind of dive into it without having any sense of intentionality, we either just feel flummoxed and just don't know how to deal with the block or get over it, or we can just go in the wrong direction. And there's this old story that I love, which is talking about this guy, and he puts the ladder next to the wall, and he's going up and up and up, and he's never thinking. He gets to the top of the wall, and then he's at the top of the ladder, and he's just thinking, and he looks out and he's like, I put the ladder next to the wrong place. This isn't where I want to be. And you have to take a moment for that sense of intentionality to get the crossbow and arrow, and just take a moment to aim twice before you shoot. So anyway, going on, so we've talked about having that one thing that we want to go after. What are we willing to sacrifice? Now the next thing is, I think as we go into the next period, is to say, what are we saying yes to and what are we saying no to? Because for me, like in that moment somewhere, it's like I just want to say yes to everything in life, and that's a beautiful affirmation. It's a wonderful moment. But as you're getting back into that sense of where you're trying to get to, of what you want to do, what you want to achieve, you have to zero in again. And that means once again saying, okay, what am I willing to do for this one thing that I love? What am I willing to say no to? And for me, it's like I've been thinking a lot about this next period, because it feels like a really critical moment, because 31% of the year is left, 2/3 is gone. For me, it's like, wow, if I can really go in for this next month and build a habit chain, bring back the sense of discipline, get things moving forward, I could be in a really good position in a month or two, and then maybe even just kick off, enjoy the end part of the year, start preparing for the year after that. So when it comes to yes and no, I think it comes different areas in our life. So for instance, it's like I've just had a lovely social time, and at this point it's like, right, I will be less social in the week. I still like to be social at the weekend, but there will be more no during the week. Something I'm also saying no to is like sort of junk food, stuff that is actually not energizing myself. What am I putting into my body? Because this is the next thing. We forget that our energy, our goals is completely dependent on our energy. What are we putting into our body? What are we doing to nourish ourselves spiritually? How are we going to exercise? And it's very easy. So some of us might have joined a gym at the beginning of the year and we're like, oh, we haven't been doing it for ages. But this is the point where you get to begin again. There is 1/3 of the year left. Think of it like this. 31 is a prime number, divisible only by itself, and 1. That's a unique moment. That's a moment of individuality and of potential and ineffable possibility. And so this is a moment, I think, really to be embraced. And as I say, it doesn't mean that you have to give up the feelings you have. It's quite the opposite. It's as Hermann Hesse said, at the last, I will have to take the whole world into my heart. You can take all of those feelings and use those as an energy in this moment of renewal, transformation, and of change as you reboot yourself towards what you're going after. So what's next? So again, one of my personal pain points is that I do have responsibilities. I do have my daily work. I do have my clients. I've been going off to Dubai. I'm working with a client. I'm going off to the US to screen my documentary, A Conversation with America. I've got my weekly jobs here, and there comes responsibility. And it's so easy with all of these different responsibilities that we have that we let them get in the way, and we allow them to become an excuse not to go after that passion project or that thing that we want to do most and that we believe in most. And if I may, I would say that try to not allow these other things that one has to do to make one's living, to live one's life. They don't have to be hindrances. I instead try to look at each one of these things as potentials, as things that are sharpening me. Sometimes, well, there's this quote where it's like, sometimes you have to be in jail to know really what life is. And sometimes that's with my work. I'm so grateful for it, because when I come back to the principal work, to the focus, to the album, to the creative side of my life, I'm renewed. Because we might dream of doing it every day and all the time, but often that comes with very much more added doubt and disillusion and worry. What should we be doing? And yes, maybe there's a point where we will do that again, but yeah, don't sort of think down on the things you have to do, because I think that those responsibilities are an expression of your deepest, most nature, of taking care of your life, of going out, taking adult responsibility, of saying, I am in the world, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm doing it, taking ownership of your life. All of those things are so important for going forward with what it is that you're trying to create, with what you're trying to do. Because if the rest of your life disintegrates, and believe me, I have been there so many times, it does not aid and progress the creative process as one might dream. It really isn't. It's like a foundation and a responsibility and maturity and a sense of knowledge and of self, and I will go forward and I will know where I'm at and I will look after the small details. That is a foundation for creating magnificent work. So my next point, which I think is my fifth, but I might have forgotten by now. But every single day, as you're trying to build the daisy chain, so you're starting with a review, that's really helpful. Now, what I like to do is I like to assign one main goal per day and per week, actually. So at the beginning of the week, main goal, what's the main thing for the week? The difficult thing that I'm going to try and move forward. And then I break that down every single day, one main goal per day. So I'm in the studio today, and ostensibly I'm making my YouTube video because I want to communicate with you guys, but it's like I'm just trying to get back into the process. It's a review, get some practice in, see what songs I've got kicking around, see if I can write something new. This is a lovely thing to be able to get back in here, take a moment and get after it. So every single day, assign one main goal, and don't be afraid of making that an ambitious thing and saying, I'm going to really go after and get it done. What is it David Goggins says? He says, I'll sleep not when I feel, no. I'll sleep when it's done, not when I feel like it. You know, that's the thing. You do it until it's done. And that's a great thing to do. And you forgive yourself if you don't do it, because not all of us are superheroes like Mr. Goggins. But there is so much more that we can achieve. So that's the sixth thing, is that there is so much more in you than you have any idea that you can do. You know, there is a level of spirit and forward movement and productivity that you have no idea of. And you get convinced when you hit these blockades and these moments that nothing's going to go forward. But there is something in us that we can activate, and suddenly we get into the flow and things start really moving forward. I felt it last week. So I had this podcast with Gordon Raphael, who I told you about earlier, who produced the iconic Two Strokes album, and it was such a great thing. But I was like, man, I'd been ignoring this for some time, and I just had to get it done. And I just zeroed in, got so focused, and it was a massive project because there were all types of dimensions to it, but I really just got it done. And I actually, I think I got a week's work done in one day. Just as I said, it does not matter whatever happens. By the end of this day, it will be done. And the project has kicked off fantastically. You can actually see the video on YouTube, but it's first of all a podcast. So you can see it on all streaming platforms, the Jim Croft podcast. But just do not underestimate yourself, what you can do, who you can be, how much you can get done. And if you have the humility to acquiesce before that primary goal that you set yourself every day and really go after it and break it down to its principal, smallest steps. That's the idea, is the humility to really break it down to its smallest things. You have no idea what you can achieve, how productive you can be, what you can become, and what you can do. So have the faith, have the courage, get after it. You know it's in you. You know, there's that potential in us as human beings that we always know it's within us. Oh, the music has started outside. Okay, so it's going to rock and roll. But just remember that potential true self, that face that we had before we were born, as the Zen Buddhists put it, that is always there. It's always available to us. And at this point of the year, with 31% of the year ahead, you are going to get moving towards this. Come on, guys, it's time to energize. It's time to feel the spirit. It's time, this is our life. This is our moment. This is our miracle. This is our potential. We cannot wait till the next life. We cannot be so arrogant to assume we're going to get a second go at this. This is our moment now. Why not grab it by the change? Carpe diem and say, this is really my time, and that this will be the moment that I go after it. And the paradox is that's not about bigging yourself up. It's about having the humility for the smallest possible thing before you, believing it with all your damn heart. Now, equally, the seventh thing? Stop putting so much damn pressure on yourself, because yes, you want to get your lifeblood up, but as you're trying to get going at this moment between the changing of the seasons, it's just, you put the pressure on yourself. It's like, oh, I should be further ahead than where I'm at. It's like, well, you shouldn't have to be anywhere. And in fact, a lot of the work that you've done already, we might want to have seen greater outcomes or results, but what you forget is it's invisibility. All of this work, you're sowing this every single day. You're sowing, you're knitting, you're creating this tapestry, and it's much wider and broader than you can imagine. And so often this work, we're investing it invisibly, and it's only later where suddenly there is this moment, there's this threshold, there's this equinox point, this singularity, when things change and things move and the wave comes in. So do not underestimate what you are doing today, no matter how small it is, and don't put so much pressure on itself. Trust in the work you're doing, trust in the dream, trust in the aspiration, and keep moving towards it. So the 8th point is that at this point, I'm thinking about a 1-month challenge, and this is to really say to myself, okay, why shouldn't this be my best month of the year? Who's to say that this can't be the time when I feel most inspired, or when everything comes together, or that this couldn't be my moment, or I write the best damn song that I've ever written? Because so for me, with the album, I've written 9 songs, and I've recorded all of those songs, few to finish still work to do, always work to do. And my aspiration by the end of the year is to have written 12 songs, maybe for 1 song to be released every month next year. That's my sort of rough idea at the moment. But I've still got a final session in the year where I've got to get 3 songs written. And I'm like, well, why shouldn't these 3 songs be the best of my life? If that's my principal goal, if that's my dream and my desire, who's to say that I don't have the broadest or most beautiful or emotional statement in song, that perhaps that voice, that voice of the spheres, who's to say that this isn't the moment where it might pass through me? So what about you? Maybe this is the moment where you reconnect to that thing that you're most excited about, that moment in your life where it's like, damn hell, everything was written for this moment, for something to kick off. Who's to say you can't have that faith that something can't change, a trigger point can't happen, that this isn't your moment of something really renewing and pulling you forward into a new moment. So I'm just going to have the foolhardiness and the guts to believe at this point. I'm going into this month with faith. But, and this is the point, it's not only faith. I'm giving myself this 1 month challenge to build the chain of my momentum. And this isn't about a sort of darkened discipline. And I think, sometimes I've been guilty. I think I certainly did this year in the winter months. I got into this sort of very sort of dark state of mind where I was really sort of gritting it out. Maybe sometimes that is part of the process. It can be sometimes you just go through those periods, and you also have to allow yourself to be in those periods. But at the moment, I'm just like 1 month challenge of saying, right, I'm going to go after this, and I'm going to try and open my heart and bring in that summer energy, and I'm going to reconcile with the melancholy and let it through me and let it lift me up, and see if I can find a new part of my nature. And so, just getting back to the basics, to check in with the spirit, to practice diligently, to do exercise, to try and give my best to my clients, and to go after it, because I'm sure there's a song out there. So that's coming to the end. There's 31% of the year left in 2024. And 2/3 have gone. Guys, if you're not where you want to be, let it go. Forgive yourself. If there were too many days where you don't feel like you quite got there, that's okay. That is part of the journey. It's like you're always going to have times when you were out of kilter with life, or you were dealing with some deeper anxiety, or there was a problem that you didn't expect, or a loved one was sick, or you got your heart broken, or just some demon from the dark came out. You never know what it is, but that's all gone now. It's like all of it, it's subsumed into you. It's absorbed, all of it, into you. This is your moment of metamorphosis. There is something more, and it's not about giving up something. It's about becoming that which you might be, that which is within you, that potential. Who's to say that this isn't the moment of your life? This moment, as we go through this change and this transition, I want you to know that every single person that follows this channel, I'm so grateful to you. We're still small, and I don't care about that. For me, it's about the communication. That's the love. That's the motivator for me to share ideas, to bounce along the way, and to create some community and friends along the way. And please keep believing in life. Keep positive. Trust in time, in knitting things together, and keep going. You've got this. I've got this. And I'm sending you much, much love and passion and power along the way. Take care, guys. Until next time.